think the most important starting point for this discussion is to not think about technology at all, but to think about what really matters to people and their lives, and really to kind of boil it down very simply. If you focus on relationships, then I think you get to quite a lot of the most important issues. Relationships are crucial to our sense of well-being, and relationships are absolutely critical to the quality of life in older age. Relationships are critical to how we access jobs and opportunities through our social networks. So the biggest rise in long-term unemployment has always been amongst workless households where two people are out of work. Relationships are critical to getting access to through networks, any kind of resource in the modern economy. So when you get a technology coming along that creates new networks in this way that the web is doing and allows people to sustain networks in new ways, if you don't have access to those networks, then your exclusion, whether it's by location or skill or money or what have you, goes up. The two things I would say just at the outset is one is that I think the whole language of inclusion is quite a dated language now. Whereas actually I think the way the web works is finding things that people want to do with it so that they start doing things for themselves. It's much more about do rather than include. And the second thing is that I agree with Adam that speed is critical, because speed will determine what you can do. Video will be vital to the collaborative nature of the web. We've only just got started on that. But more important than speed, I think, is our ingenuity and innovation in consumer innovation and using the web, and business innovation and finding new business models. Although the Digital Britain, the Carter report, is a starting point, it's complete failure, it seems to me, to capture those two issues, that really it's about innovation in business models, social innovation, consumer innovation. It's not just about technology, is the great weakness. And that is really a governmental weakness, because government really doesn't get the culture of the web. It finds it very, very unsettling. The idea that you give away information and to some extent control and allow people to self-organise solutions is something that government finds extremely difficult to come to terms with. Actually, there's just such a cultural inhibition to that it's dangerous, it's risky. We cannot trust the citizens we work for, basically. Just as many people in the BBC think we can't really trust the viewers who pay the licence fee. So, 5 issues, ways of thinking about it. One is access and availability does count. If you give them technology, they will start using it. The most impressive examples of this are in the developing world. And one of the most impressive is the hole-in-the-wall education initiative, where a guy called Sugata Mitra just put a PC with a pad in the wall of his office, in a slum, in Delhi, and just watched children come. And within hours, they were surfing the web. And they were just teaching one another. There are now hundreds and thousands of these. Kenya's got very few landline telephones, very few personal computers. It's got masses of mobile telephones. So virtually any infrastructure in Kenya that will deliver knowledge or health or any other thing will have to be built on mobile networks. So I think there's a big lesson for us in that, which is, the biggest issue of social exclusion in young people in this country are the vast numbers of young people who leave education with no qualifications and very little show for it, the growing population of NEETs. Well, if ever there was a case for social innovation of a radical kind, it's the NEET population. It's because our education system consistently fails that you create, it seems to me, an opportunity to do learning in some completely different way, which will be out of school, technology-enabled, vocational, practical, collaborative, and engaging. And so the scope for radical innovation there, I think, is high. The second area, though, I think, which is really big, is that there are a whole bunch of people that even if you gave access to the broadband internet to, they would think it's too frightening, too distant, and too threatening, and just basically not see the point of it. The Pew Internet in American Life survey in America did a survey recently of non-broadband users in America, and they found that 50% of them, about 20% of the adult population of America, weren't accessing broadband because they thought it wasn't interesting. My parents are big users of digital technology. They're very old, they're virtually housebound, they spend their entire day either with the telephone or the television. not actually with the internet, but actually if you could turn the digital television into a two-way Skype video conferencing service, or if I could connect to my parents and other people in their village through a kind of Facebook-type social network, then actually that technology would have a real social purpose. There is a huge market, potentially, for some kind of social network that would link adult children to distant parents. It's not technologically difficult. It's a question of finding the right kind of entrepreneurial appetite for that. There are three types of experiences that people want from media, it seems to me. One is a kind of enjoy experience, which is they want to be entertained or informed or served, in which they don't really want to be participants at all. There are then, however, experiences where I think people want some kind of content, but they want to talk about it. So most of the new media experiences that people are getting are heavily socialised. They're about talking. And then there are a set of experiences which are about doing. People want to do things. So this is the big shift, which is that for my parents' generation, it was enjoy, a little bit of talk, very little do. For my youngest son's generation, it's pretty much 30% do, 30% talk, and 30% enjoy it. And that is a culture which is about recognising that people have things to contribute. And that will change, should change, the way that we think about large chunks of public services. So one of the big disappointments of digital Britain is there is nothing about education in it. There's nothing about how digital technology could change the way that we involve children and parents in education, or change where schooling takes place, or how it takes place, or what have you. If you look at the NHS innovation strategy, it's essentially about how we can dream up better stuff to deliver it to patients. There's very little about how patients can bring about change in the health system or look after themselves. The biggest step forward in that is patient opinion set up by a GP outside the health system. Chicago City has set up a system where you can create a map of Chicago based on any one of 200 pieces of information, types of information. And so as a result, community groups all over Chicago are now mapping Chicago to find out what Chicago looks like for their interests. So one community I went to, a Latino community, had done a map of its food sources and found that of 20 shops selling food, only 2 sold fresh food and groceries. So it enabled an entire community campaign to reassess its own community. Well, if you're into localism, then allowing, fostering, encouraging that creative use of technology to do that kind of thing becomes critical, it seems to me. And then finally, there is a big challenge for politicians. Basically, you cannot tell the story that broadband is going to transform Britain unless you also admit it will bring with it quite a lot of disruption. I mean, the truth is that if more people start using the web more intensively, to collaborate more creatively, it is bound to continue to disrupt established models of news, media, culture, and possibly learning. But it also means that you have to think about organisations in some completely new and different way. Most traditional organisations look like boulders, and it's very difficult to get new boulders set up. If you look at the web, the world the web is creating, it's like people are coming along and dropping lots and lots of little pebbles on the beach. And all the new businesses will be pebble businesses. All the new organisations will exploit the ability to collect and bring together lots and lots of pebbles. The best political exponent of this is Barack Obama. Because Barack Obama has used a campaign built on pebbles to become a new boulder, in a way. And he is a politician who understands the interaction of these two worlds in a very, very intense and creative way. One of the opportunities for the Conservatives is that what you see in digital Britain is the constraints of trying to be creative in government. Because as soon as you suggest something new, there'll be someone say you can't do that because you'll have to run it past the DFES or run it past the DOH. So actually out of government, you have an opportunity now to think about